Welcome to part 3 on this series of how to get online personal training clients. So just a quick recap. If you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, you will probably need to watch those, for any of this to make sense. I mean, you're welcome to watch to the end if you want, but I think if you watch these in order, you'll probably get the most out of it. So in the first video of this series, I spoke about basically why people make a buying decision, right? Why people would even consider signing up to your services in the first place. And I think that's something that is often kind of assumed or overlooked. Like, well, obviously if I put out a 12-week online program and people want to lose weight, then they'll buy my program, right? People just assume that. But then we have to really think about, we're trying to convince a total stranger at some point as you grow your business more and more online. We're trying to convince a total stranger to make a buying decision and buy something from you, enter their card details online and make a big decision ultimately. There's reasons why people do that. And it's the same reasons why people buy the latest iPhone or buy a new TV or buy new clothes or go on a holiday. It's a similar sort of psychology. So we need to harness that when we're thinking about getting clients in the first place. The second video I did, which was part 2, I spoke about getting attention, right? So the marketplace, especially online, is becoming more and more crowded. And while the market is huge, like hundreds of millions of people, billions of people if you count everyone on just Facebook, we still have to make sure that we are getting the attention of the right people that we're trying to market to. So it's all well and good putting out content every day and telling yourself, I'm going to post something every day for the next 30 days because that's what I read in a book. But if you're attracting the wrong person, or what you're saying just isn't attracting the right person, or wouldn't even get the attention of the right person in the first place, then kind of the rest of it doesn't really matter. We can speak about lead generation and sales funnels and bots and software and tactics. But ultimately, if the people that you are trying to get to sign up for your program just don't even notice what you're saying because it's the same as everything else and it's pretty boring, it's pretty bland, it kind of blends into the background of the social media feed, then we're going to struggle to make any of the rest of this work. So that's why I say go back and watch part 1 and part 2. Today I want to talk about engaging the people that we have the attention of. And really what that means is just getting leads, right? That's probably how you think of this. So imagine this really, really simply. We kind of know who we're trying to target and get the attention of and sell to. We understand why they're going to make a buying decision in the first place. So we make a marketing message that's going to help get their attention, right? I'm sat on the sofa, or I'm on my commute on the way to work, or I'm having my lunch at work, and I'm scrolling through and I kind of see your post for a couple of seconds because you said something that's a bit off the beaten track, or something that makes me think you really get me and really understand me. Now you've got to get me to join and enter your world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you get that person to be a lead, to take the first step in your world? Once we've done that, we can talk about how do we sell to them. So once we've kind of initiated the relationship and formally, they've given you contact information or whatever, we can think about selling to them. But then understanding that for most businesses like this, especially an online coaching business, the success and the money really is in the retargeting of the people who didn't make a decision on the first interaction with you. So what we are talking about, and I'll cover this more in later videos, especially in the next video, is we're probably only ever going to be able to convert 5% of, let's say you get 100 people at this stage, you're probably only going to get 5% of them to make a decision within the first month. Probably. Obviously, these are averages, those numbers vary. Okay, so that means that 95% of people are in your world who need longer than 1 month. Right? So that's when retargeting comes in. There's so much success that can be had if you have a really solid and succinct follow-up system. If you hang around to the end of this video, by the way, I'm going to give you a link or tell you where you can get access to a training where I tell you basically, right, we teach you how to piece all of this together. Okay, so everything from how we get an opt-in, exactly what the pages look like, how we make sales, exactly what that funnel looks like, what's the offer, what's the price we sell, do we do one-on-one and group, how does this fit in, how do we sell ebooks, and all those sorts of things. I cover the entire thing. Okay, it's a free training that's getting a lot of attention at the moment online. Hang around to the end of this video, I'll show you where to get that and where the link is. So when we talk about getting leads, I want to talk about this first. This is a strategy that's talked about a lot at the moment online, has been for quite a while, talking about lead generation, how to get leads into your online fitness business. People say things like, you can't just go out to cold audiences and get them to opt in. That doesn't work anymore, right? People who literally say that sentence, that doesn't work anymore. Even though the data suggests that it absolutely does, right? But because of that, people try and make kind of unique and custom systems around this to, I guess, I mean, I'm sure they have reasons as to why they're doing it and why it works, but they try and make it sound a bit more complicated than it perhaps needs to be. The complexity in making this stuff work is in the thinking that happens before you launch anything, not in the tactics and the buttons that you press. Okay, so the stuff that I see a lot of the time is, the first one is like, you need to build your followers up before you ask them to do anything. Okay, so you need to get someone to follow you on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media, whatever. And then once they're a follower, then they'll see your content that you post every day. And in your content, you can talk about your free recipe book that you have. And that's how you get leads into your business and kind of initiate the sales pipeline. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is, as we're moving more towards paid media and paid advertising, people will say things like, oh, well, you can't just go to people who don't know who you are. So instead, set up a video that kind of tells people who you are, and then retarget people who watch that video, and then get them to opt in. Okay, and then the third thing is just generally people talk about building a warm audience, and this kind of the Gary Vaynerchuk of jab, jab, right hook. There might even be a third jab in there, not sure. The idea of like, don't just ask for things all the time. Give people free content, and then ask for something, then ask for an opt-in, right? All of those are very, very complicated, and relatively speaking, but also very common. And if you're watching this and you've tried to build an online fitness business before, or you're probably doing one of these things, all right? So what's wrong with any of those? Firstly, all of them are very, very hard to track, okay? So very, very hard to figure out what it is that's actually working. Because let's say you do some stuff that you decide is going to grow your followers, all right? So let's say the plan here is, I'm going to post for 30 days, and I'm going to try and increase my following. Some of those posts may do really well. They may add some followers, but you don't really know which one it is, because it's a compounding effect. And you also don't know which one of those actually does anything, right? If these 10 people followed, if none of them buy from you, it doesn't really, from a business perspective, matter. Okay, the video, well, what does it say about me if I've watched 10 seconds? So that's what that is, by the way, 10 seconds, not 1 OS or whatever, 10 seconds. What does it say about me if I've watched 10 seconds of a video? Well, it says I've watched 10 seconds of a video. It doesn't really say anything else. So if I'm being retargeted to because I watched 10 seconds of the video, while the ad costs may be lower and all these kind of complicated reasons, I may still not want to opt in for whatever it is you're doing. I may still not want to work with you. And so we're trying to track what works, but we're adding in all these hurdles that people have to jump through before we just say, hey, I've got this thing that I think will be relevant for you. Would you like to join it? Okay. So let's say you have a video that's kind of a content, and then you have an opt-in that's even relevant, like a lead magnet that's relevant to that. And I don't opt into it. Is that because I just fancied watching the video and I'm not really actually interested? Is it because the lead magnet's wrong? Was the video wrong? Maybe people who didn't watch the video would have been better to opt in. Do you see how straight away, because you've added that in, you've added 4 or 5 things you have to optimize and try and troubleshoot if something doesn't work. And equally, if it does work, was it the video? Was it the lead magnet? Was it the targeting? There's all these things that could go wrong. All of them are very hard to scale, especially this one and this one, okay? You are always constrained. If you're always ever just selling organically to your followers or your warm audiences, you're always constrained by how big that is, how big that audience is. And even if you are really, really good at posting online on social media, okay, you'll probably find that you start off with an audience that's kind of that big, and then you post a bit more and your audience gets a little bit bigger, and you post a bit more and your audience gets a little bit bigger, right? But the whole time you are constrained by the fact that this may still only be kind of 3,000 people. And the 3,000 people are the same 3,000 people that's seeing your stuff every single day. And they get more and more frustrated by that. So you started out with maybe 300, then it becomes 1,000, then it becomes 3,000 over lots and lots of effort of posting. But we're always going to be limited by how big that number is. And if my number is bigger than yours, or if a follower's number is bigger than yours, you're never going to compete with them. Okay, so that's one of the problems with that. It's hard to scale. This one's also very hard to scale because we have to rely on the video working. Okay, we have to rely on the retargeting working. This may be 100,000 people may see this. That means you can only show 100,000 people your opt-in. Okay, your download, your way of initiating, getting a lead. And then finally, there's no intent. And what I mean by that is simply just what I was saying before. If I've watched 10 seconds of your video, it doesn't mean that I want to work with you. It doesn't mean that I want to opt. It doesn't really mean anything for that matter, other than I stopped scrolling on my newsfeed to watch the video for 10 seconds. If I follow you, doesn't mean I want to work with you either. How many people do you follow online that you have no intent of working with or buying anything from? The same with a warm audience, right? Plenty of people will follow people for entertainment or because it's interesting, because it's a bit voyeuristic and people like following other people online. That's how these platforms are built. But it doesn't mean they want to do business with them, okay? So what do we do instead? Well, we prefer a much simpler method, and that is basically just going straight in for the, not the sale, but for the kill in the perspective of, I just want to know whether someone's interested or not, okay? Because if they're not, well, the other problem with this approach is you can spend a lot of time giving people away a lot of information on your social media and they never do anything. They never opt in, they never buy from you. They're just quite happy sat there consuming all your free content, never buying anything from you. And honestly, that's the majority of people who follow you on social media. All right, so you're putting all of your effort and time into people who don't even care, right? A good percentage of them don't even care. So how do we remove that? Well, we just go straight for the thing that we think will be relevant for these people. Okay, so if we've gone through the steps leading up to this point, I know that this is someone that I can help. I know why they're going to make a buying decision. I know how to get their attention. So I'm just going to say, look, I've got this thing, and we use a 14-day challenge. I'm not going to go into the details of why. We've got this thing that I think will be relevant for you. Okay, it's going to teach you, or it's going to go through this, and that's relevant because I understand kind of what you're going through and what you're trying to get to. It's a bit different from the stuff you've seen before. And if you would like to take part in it, it's completely free, but if you'd like to take part in it, I just need some contact information so I can send the stuff to you. Okay, very, very simple. And let's say we find, I'm going to assume we're using advertising here just for the sake of it. Let's say we find an audience of, that's wrong. Find an audience of 1 million people who like stuff, who comment on things, who engage with brands and other people, competitors, gyms, companies, whatever, that we think, yeah, they'd be a pretty good audience. Then it's like, well, I think I've got a pretty good idea of what would get their attention and what would stand out to them, but I'm going to try loads of different things. So we throw out what we call like hooks, or the best way to think of it is imagine this audience of 1 million people is like a lake filled with fish that you're trying to grab or fish. I don't know much about fishing, but you're going to try a different bait. Okay, you're going to talk about different things: training, nutrition, mindset, sleep, supplements, whatever, and see which works better. All right, and eventually one of them will, and it will. Let's say it's this one. Okay, that people really, really respond and resonate with that, and they want to opt in and join your 14-day or whatever it is, whatever your free thing is. Okay, and what does that say about that? Why is that good? Well, firstly, it absolutely shows intent. Okay, that person has seen you for a couple of seconds, and what they've seen about what you're saying and the offer you're making is strong enough to make them think, yeah, I'm interested. This looks really good. This looks like it's right for me. I know they're pretty serious at that point. Okay, they're not just sat there consuming loads of free stuff. They are serious enough to take the first step in this and give me some contact information to allow me to communicate with them and help them. It's very, very trackable. Okay, I know exactly what my CPC or my cost per click is, what my CTR or my click-through rate is. I know how much a lead costs. I know how much this thing converts, conversion percentage. Okay, I can track all of this down to the penny if I want to, down to the 0.1%. And I know exactly what isn't working. I can say, well, you know what, I wrote this ad up here about nutrition tactics for eating out, for example, and it didn't do anything, right? Okay, I know the people that I'm trying to help, they don't care about that. But this one did really well, and it was because of this, because of the image I used, or because of the wording I used, or whatever. You know all of this stuff. And you don't have to mess around with different videos or building your following or anything like that. Okay, it's also very, very scalable, because if this works, let's say this third hook works, I can just spend more money. As long as I'm, let's say, getting 100 people and it's cost me £500, and I make 5 sales for £100 each, I make £500, and those people then get billed again in 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, for another £500, that's profitable, that's building and growing the business. So I just spend more money, okay? It's very, very simple comparably. There's one thing to build, one thing to focus on, and what your creative energy goes into is getting people to join this thing that you've already built, it's already working. People to join this thing that you've already built, it's already working. I do just want to talk about the main mistake that people make with, I guess, engaging the people they've got their attention from. So you put out some information, got someone's attention, and what we see so often is people just advertising their program or their services. Like, swipe up to work with me, click the link in my bio to join my program, blah, 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 right? You've probably seen that stuff. Maybe even try that stuff yourself. And it's basically rushing the sale. It's taking someone who at some point doesn't know who you are and saying, I have this thing, I have this program, it's this much money, would you like to buy it? And the main problem with this approach is actually that it can work, right? Now it sounds a bit odd for me to say that, but you can probably, there's of every 100 people, if you're relentless enough, let's say you're following a sales call script or something like that, and you're relentless enough, you will probably make a sale, right? You'll probably get 100 people, you'll probably sell one person if you're really good at it and you've got everything right. And that can lead to this confirmation bias that actually just selling your service is the best way to go. But what we're losing there is that the 99 people who didn't buy aren't really in your world at all, and they have no reason to continue to listen to you or perhaps buy in the future, right? So it's rushing the sale, and yes, it can make some money, it can make some sales, but you're only ever going to convert a tiny percentage of people who were going to buy something anyway. You just happen to be right place, right time. What we do instead is we delay things a little bit. We say, look, like, what would I need as a customer to make a decision to work with somebody? What would I need to know, to understand, to listen to be presented with? What questions do I have? Why might I not buy from them? All those sorts of things. And we take someone through, we use a 14-day sequence. Again, I'm not going to cover that in this video. You can watch the training in the link below that I'm going to talk about in a second if you want to see how that works. We use a 14-day challenge, and basically we kind of give people what they need to make a decision in this window here, okay? We say, look, this is really valuable. It's completely free. By the way, if you would like to continue your journey with us, we have this logical next step for you that's our paid program, okay? The result of that is we're able to convert a much higher percentage of people because we got the people who were going to buy anyway, the 1% who would have bought at this point, but we're also converting more people who needed a bit more information. Now, yes, we are missing 95% of people, but that's where the follow-up comes in. And that's what I'm going to cover in one of the later videos in this series. So what I just wanted to talk about here is a lot of people think I've got someone's intention, I'm just going to sell to them. I'm going to DM them, I'm going to advertise my program on my social media, on my swipe ups or whatever. You may get that to work, but it is such a short-term strategy, and you are missing what may only be 4 people here, but may end up being 400 people over the lifetime of running your business, okay? And if these people who just see your sale only have the option to buy or not to buy, and they're not then in remarketing sequences or retargeting sequences, you're missing out on that as well. So final thing I just want to talk about before I wrap up this video is why people don't opt in, okay? So a lot of people try lead generation tactics and they cannot get leads. It's such a common thing. Lead generation's a thing that a lot of PTs online struggle with. Why people do and why people don't opt in is sometimes a bit hard to get your head around because it's not often that obvious. Because people try things like a recipe book because it seems valuable, right? Or they try a workout guide or a cheat sheet or something like that, or a free workout and that sort of thing. The trouble with all of that is that is actually, when you think about it, available for free on Google. So why am I going to give you my information for that? Why am I going to give you my contact information, let you email me, let you contact me, if I can get all of that on Google in a split second? So people opt in because of a few reasons, basically. Firstly, and most importantly, it has to be relevant to me. Okay, if it's something that's talking about bodyweight training and I don't care, if it's talking about kettlebells and I don't care, if it's talking about bodybuilding goals and I don't care, I'm not going to opt in. It doesn't matter how good it is, how good your landing page is, how good your ads are. I don't care. It's not for me, right? People stop the scroll at things that are relevant to them. It's part of getting their attention. It has to appear valuable. And part of this is, does this seem like something that would actually help me? Is this just super general? Is this just talking about fitness in a very broad sense, or might this actually be valuable to me? Does this fit into my life? If it's like a 2-hour video or a 100-page ebook, what's the chances of me actually completing or finishing that? Very, very slim, okay? Especially in the fitness industry, in the fitness world. It helps if it's a little bit different. If you're just copying exactly what somebody else is doing who's going after the same niche as you, sure, someone might opt into both, but it's important to have some aspect of differentiation. Use your personality, use your brand, use things you're interested in. Being yourself, while it sounds cliche, does help you stand out a little bit here. And then specific. Okay, so if it's talking about all of fat loss or all of muscle gain or all of flexible dieting or whatever, the chances of you grabbing someone's attention get lower and lower and lower because they're used to seeing things like that all the time. But the most important thing is, if I look at this and I think, this doesn't really seem like it's right for me, or this doesn't really seem like it's applying to me, and actually, you know what, I can get a recipe guide online, or I've got a recipe book on my bookshelf, then I'm probably not going to continue and opt in. All right, so as promised, If you would like to learn more about this stuff, if you're thinking, sounds great, Johnny, but I don't really know where to start or how to put all this in place, the training that is in the link below this video covers this setup here. So the client acquisition system we use inside of Propane Fitness starts with the Facebook ads, what they look like, the landing page, what that looks like, how the 14-day challenge works, and some examples of our clients who are using those, pricing, why we do one-to-one and group, and how those feed into each other, how email marketing fits in, and then how we kind of bring an ebook back into things to sell people lower price products to ascend them back up the pyramid. Hopefully this video has been helpful. This has been part 3 of a series of how to get online personal training clients. I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoy. Speak soon.